Hello everyone, this is Dr. E, and for today we're going to be looking for Hello everyone, this is Dr. E, and for today we're going to be using the conditions or properties of parallelograms so that we'll be able to find the missing measurements of a parallelogram that we're going to be working on today. From our previous lesson on the conditions or properties of parallelograms, we were able to prove if a given quadrilateral is classified as a parallelogram by satisfying at least one of the conditions in our parallelogram. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be applying those properties and conditions that we have learned from the previous lesson so that we'll be able to find clues on how to find the measurements of our parallelogram, similar to what we're going to be working on today, which is, in this case, we have parallelogram KLMN. And with this, you'll notice that we need to find the measurement of the diagonals of our parallelogram. But the problem is there's no numerical values or unit of measurement that we can substitute the value of our variables at this time. So you are seeing two variables, X and Y. So for the measurement of Km, our clue is that its equation is y plus 10 and 2x minus 8. And using the properties of parallelogram, we know that diagonals of a parallelogram bisects each other, which means it cuts our parallelogram into two congruent pieces. So this will help us find the first equation that we're going to be using to solve for our first variable. And for our second diagonal, we have diagonal ln, and we have x and y plus 2 as its measurements. And since we know that we have a bisector in this diagonal, we'll be able to equate the measurement of K and, well, half of the measurement of Km and the other half of the measurement of Km, which is given by y plus 10 and 2x minus 8. And since they are congruent, we can equate it to each other. And that will be our first clue in answering this problem. So our first equation would be for line segment Km, which give us y plus 10 is equal to 2x minus 8, because we know that they are congruent, or the measurement of Km, those parts are congruent. And we can also have equation number 2 given by the line segment Ln, and equation number 2, since they are bisectors, so we will be able to equate x equal to y plus 2 as our equation. And from here, we can see a system of linear equation. So that means we can use the elimination method or the substitution method to solve for the variables x and y. And in this case, I think substitution method is more advisable, since we have an isolated variable here, x is equal to y plus 2, which we can use to find our first set of variables. So what I'm going to do is use equation number 1, which is y plus 10 is equal to 2x minus 8. And in this case, I will replace x by y plus 2. So my new equation will be y plus 10 equals to 2 parentheses minus 8, because now my x is going to be y plus 2. And by distributing and simplifying our equation, we'll be able to have y plus 10 equals 2y plus 4 minus 8. And by further simplifying our equation, we'll have 2y, 4 minus 8 is negative 4. So what we can do is we can subtract y on both sides, and we can add 4 on this side, so that y will be by itself, and we'll be able to solve our first variable in this particular equation using the substitution method. So What we did was replace x by y plus 2 and using our algebra skill so that we can find the variable y, and by simplifying our equation, we found that y is equal to 14. And from here, we'll be able to find the variable x by using the equation number 2. So equation number 2, since we know that this is y is equal to 14, we'll be using this equation, x is equal to y plus 2, so we'll be able to find our x variable. And we know that x is equal to y plus 2 and x is equal to 14 plus 2. Now we have x is equal to 16, and now we have our two variables, which is x equal to 16 and y equals to 14, which we can use so we can find the values of our diagonals. So that is our first part of our work in this word problem or geometry problem. So now that we have our two variables, let's clean up the slide and focus on our x and y, because here now we can find the line segments that we are calculating, which is the bisectors of our diagonals. So our first bisector is line segment KM, and we know that KM is represented by y plus 10 and add it to 2x minus 8, because that is the sum of the length or the information that we have for the length of LM. And we know that x is equal to 16 and y is equal to 14. So by replacing our x and y by the corresponding values of x and y that we have calculated from the first part of our work, we'll be able to find the measurement of Km, which gives us 48 units. So that measurement of our first diagonal is 48. Let's see if it's the same as the measurement of Km by plugging in a value of x and y for line segment Ln, which is now going to be the sum of x and y plus 2. So we have x plus y plus 2, and using our substitution, because we have 14y and 16x, now we'll be able to find the line segment Ln, which is equal to 32 units. So this is how we're able to figure out the measurement of our diagonals, basing our information and the clues in our parallelogram. So let's move on and let's find and solve another set of parallelograms. And in this case, we're going to be looking for the angles of this parallelogram. So for parallelogram ABCD, how are we going to figure out a way on how to find the angle measurements of A, or angle A, angle B, angle C, and angle D, given that the only information we have is an expression for the measurement of angle A, which is x, and the measurement of angle B, which is 2x. So this is where the properties of parallelogram or the conditions of our parallelogram will come into play, because this will help us in finding the value of the variable that will help us complete our angles. And in this case, we're going to move all the way to 6, because this is our clue that will help us write the equation that will help us solve for the x variable. And what is that clue? It says here that the consecutive angles of a parallelogram is supplementary or supplement to each other. So that means A and B are supplementary, which is equal to 180 degrees. So how are we going to use that information to solve our parallelogram? We're going to use condition number 6, so that we know that the measurement of angle A, when we add it to the measurement of angle B, it's going to equal to 180 degrees, because they are supplementary. And what is the measurement of angle A? The measurement of angle A is x, and the measurement of angle B is 2x. So using our algebra skill, we'll have 3x is equal to 180 degrees, and by dividing both sides by 3, we'll be able to find our x variable, which is in this case 180 degrees divided by 3. So angle A is x, angle B is 2x, 3x equals 180. When we divide it by 3, x is going to equal to 32 degrees. And this is going to help us find the rest of the angles in our parallelogram. So now that we know that angle A is 32 degrees, we'll be able to easily find angle B because the measurement of angle B is simply twice of x, and since x is 32, we'll have 2 times 32 degrees, and by multiplying it, we'll be able to have 64 as the angle measurement for B. So we have 32 for A, and we have 64 for B, and since we're looking for angle D and C, to be able to find it, we're going to use the properties of our parallelogram. And what property are we going to be using here? Property number 4, which is, according to here, both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. So that means if angle A is 32, its opposite angle, angle C, will also be equal to 32 because they are congruent or equal to each other. So without even doing any math, we'll just write angle C is equal to 32 degrees because we know that the properties of parallelogram holds in this particular equation. So now that we have angle C, which is equal to 32 degrees, we'll be able to use the same concept for angle D because we know that they're opposite to angle B, and we already found the measurement of angle B, which is 64 degrees. So that means, using the condition, angle D is also 64 degrees. So now we have all 4 angles that we are looking for, and my pen is on the floor. So now we're able to solve our parallelogram by using its conditions, and of course, with the help of algebra to solve for the values of our parts in this parallelogram. So in this next problem, we're going to see another set of parallelograms. So we have here parallelogram ABCD, and we need to find the measurement of angle A and the measurement of angle B. And to be able to do that, again, the clue is to use the properties of our parallelogram. So let's bring out the property so that we'll be able to write our equation that will help us solve this problem. And in this case, the property that we're going to be using is that both pairs of opposite angles are congruent, which means the measurement of angle D is equal to the measurement of angle B. So 87 degrees is equal to x plus 29 degrees. And now we have an algebra problem that we can easily solve by subtracting 29 on both sides. We'll be able to find the variables or variable x that will help us solve for angle ABCD in our parallelogram. So let's draw our parallelogram here. My parallelogram is ugly, but we know that angle D is equal to 87 degrees, and we'll be able to find the value of B by plugging in the value of x, which is, we don't have the value of x yet, so 29 on both sides. 87 minus 29 is equal to 58. So we have 58 degrees for x. So now we're ready to find angle B, which is equal to an expression, x plus 29, and x is equal to 58. So all we need to do is to add them up, and we'll be able to find the values of angle B, which is equal to 87 degrees. So now we know that this is also 87 because they are congruent because they're opposite each other. So we're able to prove that it's a parallelogram because we know that D and B are equal to each other when we substituted our x variable, which is 58, in our expression. And now let's use the rest of our properties so that we can find the value of angle A and C. And the other variable or the other condition that we're going to be using is condition number 6, which is supplementary angles for D and C because they are consecutive and this is a parallelogram. So what we can do is equate it to 180, and we know that angle D is 87 And we know that angle C is what we're looking for. Since they are supplement, we are going to use the value of the measurement of angle D, which is 87. And using algebra, we'll be able to find the value of C, which is equal to 93 degrees. And from here, now that we know that angle C is equal to 93 degrees, using the properties that is opposite angles are congruent in a parallelogram, without doing any math, we'll be able to solve for the angle measurement of angle A, which is equal to also 93 degrees. So now we're able to complete the parts that we're supposed to be looking for in this parallelogram by 1, knowing our conditions or properties of parallelogram, and 2, being able to construct our equation using the properties and using our algebra skill so we can find those missing parts of our parallelogram. And for your missing parts, this is your Numberbender challenge for the day. You have your own set of parallelogram ABCB with O in the middle. And in this case, you're going to find the measurement of length AO and length or line segment OC, given that AO is x plus 4 and OC is 2x plus 8. So do and use the strategy that you have learned from our lesson today, and you'll be able to figure out the value of the length of those line segments using the conditions and, of course, algebra. So for those of you who are working with geometry problems, geometry is exciting because it's teaching us to be critical thinkers, because here we need to write our own math equation and making sure that our equations are correct, so that when we use our algebra skill to find the variable x or y or z, we'll be able to figure out the missing length of our geometric figure, which is in this case a parallelogram, by using algebra. So in mathematics, always remember that you need to learn how to think right, and to be able to do that, you need to practice right. So this is Dr. E, and see you again in our next lesson. Bye!